Hi, this is Keith Weaver with the Top Executive Strategy Podcast, where CEOs, COOs, and business owners share strategies for better success. This is 6 questions in 9 minutes because the best strategies are concise business advice. And so we're going to be concise and get right to our guest today. And so with question number 1, in a few sentences, tell us who you are and what you do.
Hi, I'm Commissioner Stan Summers, and I'm from Northern Utah. Jack of all trades, master of none. I've owned and sold many small businesses. I'm an entrepreneur. I've got 5 different patents in different places, and always looking for the next kind of not a big deal, but just looking for my niche in the next thing.
And like you said, a lot of experience in business and growing businesses, and obviously in the governmental side of things as well. So great to have you here. So question number 2, what's the best thing about being a business leader?
This could actually be best and worst, but I actually think being around the public is kind of my faux pas, to where we were able to get around people and actually know people, what their ins and outs, and get to know what their likes and needs and things like that are. So I think the best thing about being in business is actually getting around people and knowing people.
Well, and as a business owner, it's hard to know what products or what services if you don't understand your clients. You have to know your clients and people. So definitely getting out there. So question number 3, I hear from a lot of other business leaders that their people strategy can be more challenging in running their business than the actual business strategy of their business. Your thoughts on that?
I came from some small businesses and small farm backgrounds, and now I'm in, the governmental entity, and we have 500 employees. So it's a little bit interesting to be able to, we say it's like herding cats. So you can have all the business strategy you want, but if you don't have the people to pull off that business strategy, it's going to be tough. And I think you also have to communicate what your business strategy into the people you have. So if something doesn't work and you have to change either one of them, you have to go by the fly and be able to do those type of things. So yeah, I would agree with that sometimes the person's strategy is almost harder than the business strategy is.
Great answer. All right. So question number 4, what strategy would you like to share with other business leaders?
I think sometimes you have to do your wants and needs, differentiate those type of things. I wanted to be a millionaire before I was 40, and my needs just didn't quite get to that. I think sometimes you have to really take a hard look and go out and talk to people. I remember when I first started getting in business, there was a few business people in my area I went and talked with. I mean, one was probably the first multi-million-dollar millionaire in my area. And he flat out told me some of the things I didn't want to hear. And it was a hard pill to swallow. And then one of the other guys that was really successful, I got to know him really well and found out he'd been bankrupt 4 times. So, sometimes I think if you get to that point of knowing that sometimes you've got to not only, prop the door open, sometimes you have to beat the door open to get the things you want. And then stay focused, kind of like you were just talking about the business strategy. You've got to have some sort of goals, short-term, mid-term, and long-term goals to be able to get those things done that you need to do. And whether it's in personal business, life, governmental entity, or any of those things, I would say that those, short-term, mid-term, and long-term goals are really well. You can go back and forth with what's going on inside of those goals. But at the end of that, you need to look at your progress and show your progress and continue on after that. So that would be my advice on that one for sure.
Well, and some great stories that you wrapped into there as well. But, obviously the concept of, you went out and found mentors and talked to people and, readjusted what you were doing based on what other people had been through. And I think that's really good, especially as you're, like you said, evaluating what your real wants and needs are and trying to balance those.
Yep.
So some great advice and great strategy there. So question number 5, what other successful business owners, CEOs like yourself, would you like to maybe acknowledge, do a shout out to, or you think would be good on the podcast?
The 2 that I mentioned before both passed away, that JD Harris, and then there was a garage door guy that I had the opportunity to work for also, and he had passed away also. Some of the the best people that I know have been my bosses throughout the years. And one was that I worked with it's north of Grumman now, but Thykal, and his name was Robert D. Taylor. He was a PhD, and I think he was just so good because he didn't care what my education was. He cared what my common sense was, and he always used to tell me that. So, I can probably text you some really good people that I have talked and listened to. You can see I've got my Nucor shirt on. I've got 5 divisions of Nucor in my county, and I'll tell you what, when I look at those business strategies and the things they've been able to do, one of their CEOs or somebody like that, like Dan Needham or somebody like that would be great to be on here because they have such a great business platform and take care of their people, and their stock just keeps going through the roof. And I think that would be a great company to be able to get on your podcast and learn from and listen to.
Well, great. Yeah, that would be great. Amazing how little common sense there seems to be sometimes amongst employees or people. So that's
definitely
a gift.
He used to tell me that PhD sometimes stood for posthole digger because sometimes the people he had to deal with couldn't articulate things very well and get things done. So no knock on PhDs, just sometimes.
Well, you kind of already told us about one boss, but kind of a final fun question. Is there another favorite boss that, past boss that maybe you'd like to tell us about?
I talk about the one guy that was helping me with garage doors. He used to get us together on Fridays right before we gave us our checks and pitch quarters, with 5 or 6 of us. And I don't know if you've ever pitched quarters before in your life, but you're pitching a quarter next to a line to see. And he taught us a good lesson some days to where, you'd lose $5 or $10. And, 30 years ago, $5 or $10 was a good meal. And he was proficient with it. So, he'd always say, hey, you want to go double or nothing? You want to go, he'd always just kind of push you to your limits to see how far you were able to think out and how quickly you could make decisions. And, and I think of him quite often and realize that he was probably one of my good business mentors. And he worked hard with these guys, but yet he kind of had that vision of what his business wanted to look like. And, up until the day he died, we were really good friends. And he was very impressed with me being able to go out and do the businesses that I had done and bought and sold and had that business sense. But most of it was because of him. So I appreciated his.
Well, sounds like he taught you a lot of different lessons, but the pitching quarters almost reminds me a little bit about what you were talking about before and, evaluating what your wants and needs are, right? Because if you're going double or nothing, it's a little easy to get into the moment and forget about what your needs are.
And plus he had he had our paychecks in his pocket. So, we're sitting there looking, okay, well, and we're thinking, okay, next Friday I'll have another chance to get my money back. But what about, he knew what he was doing. So yeah, Max Mason, big shout out to Max Mason. And I still know he has family and stuff around in the area, but yeah, him and JD Harris were big. And then my dad, like I said, I grew up on a farm. So
it's been great having you on and listening to your insights. Before we go, can you tell people how they can maybe link up with you?
When you said link, so LinkedIn, Facebook, and my county email is ssummers@boxeldercounty.org. So I'm on most social media. Facebook, I've already got 5,000 friends, so you'll just have to follow me and send me private messages on those if you'd like to get in touch with me. So I'm also a published author. So if you go to anywhere, I think on Amazon, you can look up I Have a Secret by Stan Summers. And I forgot to say something about that. So in my spare time.
Well, again, appreciate you being on and taking the time to be here. And this is Keith Weaver with the Top Executive Strategy Podcast. And for more insights, you can follow us at Weaver Business Coaching, find us on LinkedIn, and of course, listen to us on your favorite podcast platform. And we wish you all the greatest success.
Thanks, Keith.